Welcome back everyone to my trip to Israel. This is day number 7, so you gotta go check out days 1 through 6 first, but let's get started with day 7. Now I see why so many YouTubers don't wear glasses. It's impossible to place this thing so it's not reflecting off the lenses. Stupid light. Okay, so we're headed out today. It was supposed to be our flexible day where we either do extra stuff or do stuff that something happened on another day and we couldn't do, which today is going to be kind of both. We were supposed to do Megiddo yesterday, but it turns out there's a 1-hour cut off that we didn't know about. We showed up too late to be allowed to go up. So that's what we're doing first thing this morning, is we're going to Megiddo. So that'll be really interesting. And then we're gonna do extra stuff. Like one of these things we're gonna do is a sightseeing where it's like I forget the name of the town. It's like Rosh Hanikra or something. I'll check that later. But it's this old railroad tunnel built around like World War II or something. So and it's supposed to be really, really good views of like the Israel coast on the Mediterranean. And then we're going to a party. There's a birthday party for a family member of some of our guides who live in Israel. It's like, so we're gonna go do that. So day 7 happened on a Saturday, which is the Sabbath. And here is what traffic is like on the morning of the Sabbath. Look at how empty that is. Anyway, like I said, our flexible day was saved for either if we needed to reschedule things or do extra stuff. So we headed to Megiddo. Isn't that a beautiful view? It's like God shining down on his holy country. This is the oldest entrance of Megiddo. It descends from the Iron Period city gate down to a plastered pool. This is the next oldest entrance, the Canaanite city gate from the Bronze Period. At that time, the city was not fortified, which meant that the gate was ceremonial rather than defensive. It served as the entrance to the palace complex. During its last phase, when ovens were built in its chambers, the gate probably served as a kind of service wing to the palace. The gate went out of use after the palace was burned at the end of the late Canaanite period. The majority of the excavations we visited at Megiddo had to do with Solomon. This Israelite city gate was built by King Solomon in the Iron Period when the city was rebuilt. During the period of the Israelite monarchy, the city once again attained importance and was extensively built up and fortified by the Israelite kings. A 2-chambered outer gate was situated at the top of a ramp that ascended to the city from the north. The inner gate here had 6 chambers and was connected to the outer gate by an L-shaped plaza. These are the northern stables. They reveal Megiddo's importance as a cavalry base or a center for commerce and horses. The construction of the stable city is attributed to one of the Israelite kings, perhaps Jeroboam II in the 8th century BC, or to King Ahab in the 9th century BC. The stable walls were built of mud brick on a foundation of ashlars. A large number of stables attest to a strong city government at the time they were built and to Megiddo's status as a major chariot city. The way they excavated Megiddo was to basically take a pie slice out of the side of the hill. As I mentioned in an earlier video, they stopped doing it this way because they ended up destroying a lot of artifacts and sites doing this. But in this pie slice, they were able to determine that 30 layers of civilization made up Tel Megiddo. That circular platform was known as the High Place. It's where the worst of their pagan practices took place. I'll let you look that up on your own instead of mentioning it here because it's pretty horrific. It's dated from 2950 BC to 2350 BC, long before the Israelites arrived in Canaan. Megiddo and the Valley of Megiddo is where the Battle of Armageddon will take place, the battle spoken of in Revelation. Then they gathered the kings together to the place that in Hebrew is called Armageddon. The Valley of Megiddo translates in Hebrew to Har Megiddo, which is where the word Armageddon comes from. Many empires fought each other in this valley for control of the international trade route via Maris. Some scholars believed more battles have been fought here than at any other place in the world, and the worst one is yet to come. It's all going to happen right here. This is a grain silo believed to be from the 9th or 8th century BC, from the time of Ahab. It's 7 meters deep and 11 meters in diameter. Its walls are lined with field stones. 2 staircases lead to the bottom, which was paved with pebbles. Kernels of wheat found between the stones along with the remains of straw identified the structure as a silo. It could store about 1,000 tons of wheat. This is the southern palace. Nothing's left of it now except the courtyard and the gate, the remains having been dismantled by an expedition to search earlier strata. Near its outer gate, a seal was discovered with the inscription, "To Shema, servant of Jeroboam." Referring to King Jeroboam II, this is the earliest seal of an Israelite king discovered to date. The palace has been dated to the 10th century BC. These stones with the holes drilled into the sides of them had several uses. They would shackle a prisoner to them or put the stone down on the ground so they could place a torch in the hole. Ah, Freddy, what a character. The manger in the nativity scene has always shown to be made of wood, right? Wrong. In biblical times, mangers were made out of stone. This is a manger. And there's Freddy demonstrating how Jesus would have laid in it. We sang "Away in a Manger" to him. Here's the southern stables. It's where Solomon housed many of his horses. It includes 5 lengthwise structures that open onto a large training ground with a square trough in the center. The excavators discovered bite marks of horses on the troughs, as well as holes, probably to tether animals. Solomon had imported these horses from several places, including Egypt. But in Deuteronomy, God had commanded after the Israelites left Egypt that the kings must not acquire great numbers of horses for himself, or make the people return to Egypt to get more of them. For the Lord has told you, you are not to go back that way again. Then again, he also took on many wives, which the Lord also told the kings not to do in that same passage. This is the water system, believed to date from the 9th century BC. Just like at Hatzor, it's walled in on the side of the tell so no one could get at their water supply and to bring water into the city without having to exit the walls. It is a 36-meter deep shaft from which a 70-meter long horizontal tunnel extended to the spring, which emerged in a cave at the foot of the mound outside the walls. The tunnel was cut on an incline so the water would flow to the bottom of the shaft and the inhabitants could draw water while standing at the top. The outer entrance to the spring was sealed with a massive stone wall, concealed with earth so that an enemy besieging the city wouldn't discover its location.
Quite a feat. Surely they had a bucket system.
And they didn't have.
There we have Jackie, Jim, Tim, and Carlotta. And there's Freddy, Ricky, Jean, and Doyle. Here's the pit that held the water. We then headed for our next stop, Rosh Hanikra, which is right on the border of Lebanon. But on the way we got to see the view from the bottom of Mount Carmel. Did you know Mount Carmel isn't technically a singular mountain? It's actually a whole mountain range. This is the city of Haifa. It's Israel's largest port. And here we are at Rosh Hanikra. We have to take a cable car down to the actual site. And here we go again. I had to use the bathroom, but the bathrooms were down below after you get off the cable car. I'm dying. And we have a bit of a wait for our turn in the line for the cable car. And of course, Someone gets Doyle and Jean's attention, tells them. Shane then talked with the employee at the lift, and I was ushered to the front of the line to take the next car down. I felt so uncomfortable standing there having skipped the line like that. I don't know, it just, in my mind, I flash back to all those stories you hear of the entitled Americans about how I'm an American, I should be better than all you locals. I'm like, I do not want to come off as one of those people. But then Janet joined me because she had to go too. So we got to go down before the rest of our group. This is me turning to Janet and saying, "Suckers!" By the way, we get down there and there's no paper in my stall. Luckily, Janet was still in the room. Rosh Hanikra is where there's a former railroad tunnel dug in the 1940s during World War II to form a route from the Suez Canal to Beirut in order for supplies to get from Egypt to Europe. Sometime afterwards, during a war between Israel and Lebanon, the Lebanon army tried to sneak into Israel using the tunnel, so the Israelis caved the tunnel in. This is the tunnel that leads north into Lebanon. If you look closely, you can see the railroad tracks on the floor. This is the other side of the gate, where the tracks go back into the mountains southwards. We didn't get to go down this tunnel because we had to head somewhere else. There were also some grottos here. We took a stroll through them. It was beautiful.
בואי נצלם אותך, תעמוד יפה, תחזיק פה בשער. תעמוד יפה. לא, רגע, אני רוצה לעשות את התמונה איפה ש...
Here are the markers showing the borders between Israeli and Lebanese waters.
Holy cow. Can you see the water down there?
Not yet. Then we headed back up top to go to the Lebanon border gate. Dad got into a bit of trouble, and I had to drag him back to Israel. We then headed to lunch, where we had shawarma. Now, this one isn't mine. I didn't put mine in a pita because I couldn't have a pita, but it still tasted good. And I have no idea what they marinate their carrots in, but oh my goodness. I have never had a carrot I've never wanted to stop eating. Carrots are usually pretty bland, right? These tasted so good. Anytime I saw carrots on the trip, I grabbed a good pile of them. They were delicious. I need to ask the group leaders what it is they marinate the carrots in. Or who knows if any of you watching my video know what they marinate carrots in the Middle East? You gotta tell me. You gotta tell me. We then headed into a national park, and that's when Doyle told us that he'd gotten enough requests for a swim in the Mediterranean that's what we were doing now. He had said there might be a chance, so we were all prepared with our swim gear, but it was still a good surprise. There's Betty and Sharon, and Diane and Lou, and Nick and Ricky, and Susan and Jean, and Mike, and me. P.S. There was no toilet paper in the bathroom. We then headed off to our next stop, and on the way we got to see part of the 11-mile-long Roman aqueduct we saw at Caesarea. The next stop was a birthday party at Sanaa's family's house. There were 3 birthdays happening that day. They made Israeli coffee and kanafi for us. I knew I wasn't going to be able to eat it. I can't have dairy or gluten, so I had a gluten-free pastry in my bag. Sanaa comes over with a dish of some delicious-looking white dessert and says the chef made it specially for me. Her family was so accommodating of my gluten problem. Since it was white, I asked her what it's made of. The first thing she lists is milk. The guilt pours on as I say, I'm so sorry I can't have dairy. But tell him I appreciate him doing that just for me. I feel bad I can't have any. This is kanafi, by the way. And back to Nazareth, our final night in Nazareth, no less. Here's some more photos of modern-day Nazareth.
Start on it tonight, and then in the morning breakfast will start at 7:15. On the bus at 7:45. We did that yesterday. 7:45. So we've been leaving at 8 o'clock every day, but tomorrow we need to get on the road at 7:45 if possible. But we'll need to. Then we'll get back on the bus. We will drive along the Dead Sea and stop at En Gedi, which is an oasis where David hid from King Saul. And
we are finished with our first week in Israel. Wow, has it really been a week already? Well, now go check out day 8.